Go by my watch.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Atomic time. Perfect. 6 o'clock starting. 6.
Need some weather now.
Yeah.
I've been voting more this year in the rain.
All right. So we're gonna start. First thing we have to do is we have to approve 2 months of minutes because the March minutes weren't presented in the April meeting, so they were in the packet. Hopefully you didn't print the whole thing out, but
I printed it out. Yeah, I did. I came prepared.
so if everyone looked over the last 2 months of meeting minutes, want to individually get them approved, so we can get them logged in.
I make a motion to accept the minutes
Both.
for both March and April.
May a second?
I can't because I wasn't here for one of them.
Oh,
I'll say.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Get the minutes out of the way.
Perfect. I'll bring it back to Michelle.
Nothing on the consent agenda. I'd say during the open forum, that'd be a perfect time to introduce yourself.
Natural Resources is staffed once again. I'm Stephanie Sykes, so I have a background in natural resources in another municipality. So just looking forward to bringing that to Harwich since I'm from Harwich and still live in Harwich. So really excited to be here and work with you all. Hopefully provide some shellfish input or input at some other meeting. But yeah,
Well,
if you have
great.
any questions,
Well, thank
if
you.
you have
Welcome.
any questions, my
Welcome
office
aboard.
is right next to John's, so you know where to find me.
All right. Well, great. Well, welcome. That's a big void. So, yeah, moving on. New business. 11 Nuns Road, proposed dock restoration. Yes.
Yes, please.
Sure, absolutely. And if you want to just introduce yourself.
Sure will. Steve, welcome. We'll move a chair for you, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, I am Bob Perry, and I have a company called Cape Cod Engineering, and I work around the Cape, do a lot of coastal-related work. And I was contacted by Steve McCabe, the owner of 11 Nuns Road, formerly Meg Champion, I think was the name, owned it, and we were involved to basically relicense the dock that has been there since, I think, about 1950 or 1952. I'm going to grab a few things in case I need them. And so that wharf, I'm sure you're real familiar with, if you fly that harbor, it's been repaired in 1999. It had an order of conditions from conservation to replace pilings, basically kept it the same dimension that it is. And the new owner, Steve, has an interest in changing the method of berthing, which would be to go to a float. And since the dock is, it comes out, you can see how it comes off about 35 feet, and it has this large L platform, pile supported. It's got very ample depth of water.
Do we have plans? Do we have large scale plans?
Well, you told me to submit to you everything that you would need,
It was
so
in the
we did.
packet. I have it here.
Okay.
It's part of the packet. And
Yeah.
And I have, I copied what I needed on 11 by 17, so I can read it, I guess. But I have another smaller sized copy here, and the old, the license from 2024. I would have brought a lot of paper copies if I thought you needed them. But that is a scale drawing, and you can see it clearly. I also submitted and brought a photograph of the area, so we can refer to this if we need to.
Okay.
Not submitted, but here in my collection is a piece of your dredging plan for Allen's Creek, and we got this particular facility on it, so we can also look at that. So the idea from a conservation perspective was to remove that large L-shaped permanent pile-supported pier and transition the majority of the structure to a seasonal float. And because the facility has this large deck, I think it's 7 feet wide at its greatest width, and it is permanent and all the way out into the waterway, we discussed with the McCabe's ways that they might keep portions of that pile supported pier in a way that would maximize their enjoyment of it. And one of those is to retain a small platform for a bench or a box at the very end, which causes for the dock to be more than 4 feet wide. And I've memorized your Waterways regs, and I know conservation would be, looking very carefully at their Waterways regs. So we provided this letter outlining waivers so that everybody knew where we meet them and where we don't. And the idea is to horse trade in order to arrive at an amenable arrangement for the McCabe's. So what you have is a 20-foot stem and a 5-foot further piece that's pile supported. It then, because there's just no good way to have a platform where somebody could sit, enjoy the place, or maybe fish off-season when the float isn't deployed. We have a landing, which also arguably widens the deck, but it's just a right angle. And the ramp then just heads down parallel to the main pier. So the float can still occupy approximately the same footprint as the existing L. We're inshore on the south end by about 2 to 3 feet, and we're no farther out than the pile of the L on the outboard on the west. We extend past it, but we're no farther out. And so the objective was to keep the berth exactly where the berth has always been. And the letter goes into, an evaluation of what's being reduced. For example, we've taken, mostly related to conservation, but, we've reduced the hard deck, permanent deck by 177 square feet. And the float, of course, is seasonal. It exceeds your 200 square foot limit by, I think, 76 feet. But the pre-existing status of it, the applicant's interest in having a 34-foot float, which is approximately the length of the L, and it's just wide enough so that it can accommodate, some run out when you come down the ramp, and you can get by with a 6-foot float, but 8 is a little more practical and usable. We are all the way out practically all the way out on Allen's Creek, and a fair-sized vessel could go here, 40, 50 feet. It wouldn't be surprising. I've seen photos of similar vessels moored here, berthed here. So we haven't discussed this with Conservation because you are the first review board advisory committee, and this is a significant reduction of the permanent structure, but it's been reconfigured with a small bench, a small landing, much, much less permanent dock, and then seasonal floats. We do have bumper piles on the outboard, but again, it is no farther seaward than the existing facility. So we went through a lot of iterations for options for design, and this is what we came up with. And I can go on, but I'd be happy, I think, to just start the discussion and answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Well, I'd like to hear from John first, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, thanks for the presentation and the information. It was well laid out, especially kind of walking through that section 304.8 Bravo, those requirements. So that was easy to kind of read, and those water dependent structure requirements. So I appreciate that. We actually went by this yesterday, the whole entire harbor team, including Stephanie, just to kind of get the perspective. And I don't see it, I see the need, to have it replaced. It's very old. It's not really
It
usable.
moves when I walk on it.
Yeah, I
It's a
wouldn't.
little scary.
I don't know if I would walk on it, but what's appealing to this for me is that you're using an existing footprint, but also I have to be concerned only from the fact of any kind of vessel that's on there impeding. If we have a vessel, I wouldn't assume you're going to have a vessel that has more than a 15-foot beam, and that would be extending into the channel past that 35 plus 15, that 50-foot mark. So that part of the channel actually is pretty wide, and staying with the existing footprint is favorable for me because it aligns with all the other footprints, which act as actual channel markers. As people go in, they kind of use that side of a channel and use that dockage as guides. So I'm glad we're not speed bumping it out or indenting it in. The only big questions that I have are, what are the time of year that you'd be looking at doing construction? What type of vessels eventually? And this may be too far ahead to even talk about, but those are the major things for me, because impediment in the channel, especially when we work into the winter, additional shoaling can happen, and we don't want to have any kind of restrictions on the commercial fleet or the businesses that work within there.
I don't see a license coming in for the approved facility here that would be different. As soon as it changes from the pile-supported wharf, we're into a new license, and that's a November, December delivery. So this would be winter construction, and I know there may be a time of year restriction from DMF that could restrict this for winter flounder, and I can't quite recall, but it could be spring. So there would be, we'd want to get this work done, say, before January, or at whatever time DMF would allow that to happen.
Yeah, and that's where Stephanie will help out a lot too, because I think it's January 15th.
Yeah, I know for our dredging before, it had to be done by January.
Yeah.
Which is what we.
So I'd just be
Tried to.
conscientious to that window, and when you do start looking at construction dates, I do not want to impede the yacht club or the Allen Harbor Marine Service, because they are still hauling boats continuously through the end of November.
What's an
December.
ideal time for you?
I think, and that's something that we can work out with those shipyards, but it would be past December 1st, probably in the second or third week of December.
The good news is that it's the permanent portion of this, except for the anchor piles. In those anchor piles, it's possible that they could go in when the float goes in, but I'd have to talk to that particular contractor.
Yeah.
But I think it's probably by 10 feet or so, less encroachment. But the schedule, we can work with that.
Okay.
Regularly, we regularly do. We're used to DMF, and if there are other site-specific restrictions, that's what we need to know.
I think some of that gets teased out with conservation permitting.
Yeah, that would be in an order of
Right.
conditions.
Sure.
So are you
Just,
dovetail?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, you done?
Yes. Well, now I would love to hear
Yeah,
input
I
off of
wanna-
what I
mean-
kind of pitched out there.
But I mean, is the float larger than what it should be?
No.
Okay, so that
We're
that,
following, and this falls, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's falling pretty much within that existing footprint that is there now.
Okay,
The old footprint is on that plan.
yeah, I kind of
It's here.
see that,
We're-
but I mean,
we're inside of it here, just looking at it inshore, but this platform was irregular. It was 7 feet here, and it tapered down to 6, and then went to 3. We have 2 floats that are uniform, so we're best fitting the footprint.
but per the management plan, we're not going beyond the footprint.
No.
Okay, because I don't want to set any precedents to think that people then are going to put big floats on. Or
No, we're
anything
still
like
at that 35, and that's why I was asking about the beam, so we're not extending out past the
Okay.
50.
All right.
And that's this is probably one of the more favorable parts of the channel too, because there's not as much shoaling here, kind of,
Yeah, so that's the ghost dock that we're looking at. Right?
that's the ghost though, yeah.
Ghost. Jesus.
Which is
It looks like because it looks like it's just fading into the channel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
And right now, you asked about the vessel. Right now, I currently have a 38-foot. That's at Pawtucket.
Okay.
And think the beam's 11.3.
Okay.
So it's been there, we just purchased the house end of last summer, so like Labor Day. It was docked there temporarily for a few hours at a time, and boats came and went, no problem. And there's some big boats in Allen Harbor, I was surprised.
Absolutely.
And they go up through that creek too.
Yeah, yeah,
And the backside.
yeah,
High
yeah.
tide.
It's a hairpin turn.
Maybe,
No,
But no, I'd like to hear from the committee.
Yeah,
from
and
Stephanie if she's got
actually,
anything.
yeah, so we can turn it over to Stephanie if Stephanie has any input about the project. I mean, I know,
As far as shellfish, no mitigation recommended since it's replacing existing infrastructure.
no dredging, you have to dredge.
Not yet, there's a shoal, but you know about that shoal, the sand, there's just a lot of buildup, but it hasn't
Yeah.
got nowhere near us. I mean, it showed up here when I was first involved here about 2 years ago. This high tide line probably tied in about here. But your regular dredging, which is almost annual, keeps claiming that. I mean, it's just gonna be coming and going.
Okay.
Yes.
And then same, I would say, for not just the pile footprint, but in terms of shading and turbidity and stuff like that, you affect it a little bit, switching to the float. So if DMF has any further comments.
Good water
They
there is
might, but-
6 to 8 feet.
Yeah, I mean, with the
Yeah.
depth, and I mean, you're already shading it in terms of vegetation, things like that. There's not really much difference with replacing the existing infrastructure, so I wouldn't recommend mitigation in terms of money towards seed or anything like that for the replacement. And then I think when we get to the stage for permitting, we can work with DMF on time of year restrictions and the other partners in the harbor to make
Yeah.
sure that we don't conflict with anything.
Okay.
All right, I'll turn it over to committee. Anyone have any questions?
no, I've got no questions.
Concerns?
No, I think there's plenty of room in that part of the channel. The dock's been there for forever anyway.
Yeah.
So as long as it's not sticking out any further.
By making the dock square, you're still gonna maintain the outboard piling location, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you square it off on the inside, on the float?
Right, and I mean, there's all kinds of tailoring that could be done to a float. We were originally talking about permanent floats, but I know that, I don't know how you feel about that. They can be fashioned differently. I mean, they're really different. You can actually insert the piles much more readily into the float so that you have the pile face is flush with the float edge. But we didn't want to complicate this application. If somebody wants to talk about permanent, year-round floats,
I'd love that.
yeah. At this point, I think we.
I mean, yeah, we just talk about what's presented to us. I mean,
No, I understand.
Would you want more like a permanent float and we can probably pull the piles in?
I mean, I'd like to think about that a little bit more. I mean, I mean,
That's a hardware question versus a navigational review.
Yeah, but it changes the plan and we have to approve a
No,
plan.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to maybe just get a feel for that because it was something we spoke about.
okay.
So it doesn't sound like that this would not go through
Right.
from where I'm
Yeah.
reading the
That's my
committee. So it would come down to you now if
Your choice whether,
your choice to present this and we approve this, or you go back and rewrite it as if you want permanent floats and see if that could work.
Well, it wouldn't be something we do unless your committee was behind that sort of thing on a qualitative sense.
Well, as the feeling is that if you're within the same footprint,
Yeah.
and or if maybe if you can pull it in a little bit, I believe. I mean, I don't want to speak for the whole committee, but I think we could entertain that.
And so the pilings would be kind of, you'd indent
Well,
the
you would be
floats and it'd be flush.
contracting with a much more formal prefabricated float. Isn't gonna come out of Lemco or Cape Cod Docks or a beacon
Would it
made
be
in
made
the
of
shop.
concrete?
They're kind of
Similar
a
to Saquatucket?
light
With a
aggregate.
floating concrete.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
That's
up to you. That's your preference. I
This
mean,
is why I felt that if this is amenable, we would take it to conservation. The whole idea of a seasonal versus year-round float, we just didn't know where that would go. And you know, we began to talk about waivers and things, and we began to load up the plate. And so that was something that if the applicant,
You could get this voted through and then still not do this and then come back with your year-round dock. So you know you got this.
correct,
And then it
Talk
might,
about
it
the
might
hard-
delay the process, but then come back and restart. But if it's your preference to have a year-round dock, it might be worth it. Knowing you got this in your pocket and then come back and it's just another
Could we come back
application.
here first?
Yeah,
Yeah.
any changes has to come through.
It's not really a change, it's
It's
a
once a
it's a
month.
new application.
Or,
it's
yeah.
a new application, which is okay, but the essence of it is the piles are shifting landward into the float a little, and it's a hardware seasonality versus year-round question. So that's where we are, and I think we're gonna stay there. We would see you again if we go.
That's that's just your choice.
What's the benefit?
Of the year-round,
Yeah, just out of curiosity.
I believe the applicant just wanted to have an extended season, and you know how it can be in
Yeah.
December and January,
You never know.
right? And
Just not deal with the hassle of taking them in and out.
yeah, well, there's
And the
that. That's a
cost.
that's a big
Yeah,
thing,
right.
right?
And the damage, the
and
possible
cost.
damage.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
And like, you know, every time I'm on Saquatucket, those beautiful docks, I'm just like, wow, these are awesome. So that was initially when I came.
I don't know if
to
that
Bob, I
affects you and
asked.
your shading and all that prod.
Well, we were concerned at the conservation level, so that's another part of the equation. And so,
It's already shaded now.
It's a permanent fixture.
Yeah, so that was my thought in the whole thing. I think, you know, we're presenting it so that we were hopefully pass it easily. But we wanted to ask this question, so I'm
Yeah.
glad it came up.
and that kind of difference doesn't affect the license. It's a dock and a float all year long, whether it's.
I mean, our main objective is to make sure that you're not
waterways.
impeding in the waterways.
Right,
And you're not affecting shellfish.
right.
And you're not beyond, you know, the regulation of, you know, the floats and
footage.
out into the the square footage, and you're not too far out, and you're away from, you know, your neighbors.
Right.
I mean, that's our main focus.
Right.
Yep.
So,
Do you guys have a feeling one way or the other with conservation? Will they feel like,
We can't, yeah, we
I'll
can't do
defer to
that.
conservation. Conservation.
Depends on the day of the week.
It wouldn't be fair to offer our opinion on that.
yeah.
Well, you're a board that's accessible. It was great to have a back and forth with you, and I found it practical and proper to get in front of you. So I think I think before we get to conservation with that question, it has to go to you.
Correct.
And I didn't know if you're dealing with a specific application and it's not something that you could put in whatever advisory letter you provide to the Conservation Commission, that the applicant was investigating a year-round float, or do you want to see us back?
We
I have
would,
to say,
yeah, we
focused on
would.
We have to see the plan.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. We'll
So
do
if you
that.
want to defer this and come back with
No,
a,
no, I think we want the vote.
Okay.
Yes, please.
yeah, so we would vote as a yes, but I could then go to my dock construction company, ask about cost, how that works, talk to Bob about, you know, constructing it with the piers inside. And then we could potentially come back and ask for the permanent in the next
Yeah,
meeting?
yeah.
Okay, I think that,
Yeah, it's just gotta be separate. Like, it has to
Understood.
be
No, I
treated
understand.
separately. And
Could be a
Conservation will
different
be the same.
application, yep.
That's understandable.
but I don't have any objections.
yeah? No? Okay.
So I'll make a motion to approve the plan as submitted on June 18th. We have a plan number. Am I missing March? I got a part of- At 11 Noons Road, Harwich. Am I missing?
Yeah,
Need a date?
No
plan number.
Plan
What's
number.
dated? Nope, sorry about that.
No plan number?
Nope, just dated.
Okay, I have the address at 11 Nuns Road.
dated March 26th.
Yep,
Right.
by Cape Cod Engineering.
second.
Second by Roger. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. It was a good meeting.
We needed, what we do is we
Sign some
We
copies.
can sign a couple small copies. We sign 2 copies, one for you, one for us.
Okay, you want this? Because I'll take it off and fold it up for you. That helpful.
I think everyone printed out a couple copies, right?
Yeah,
Oh, you have your,
I have the full package.
Okay.
do we
Yeah,
take
so-
something back from you? or-
Yes.
You want to sign? Yeah,
Yep.
let's have one here.
We got one down.
Yeah.
So you have our signatures on a copy,
Very good.
and then we have one, so if anything changes, it's like, hey.
We don't do that.
No.
We live by the rules.
That plan.
That'd be cool if you can get the cement. Yep.
That'd be
I
nice.
think it's proper to fly that by Amy.
Right, it is,
See
yeah.
what her opinion is. I remember seeing a discussion about it. I don't know if it had to do with the scallop situation.
Yeah, in terms of materials, I would defer to conservation on that as well.
I need you when you're done.
You want a real live copy?
Defective pin. Thank you.
Looks like you're making a paper airplane.
Yeah, well, this thing did fly through, so here you are, in case you.
That's just the one I just signed going. All right, everyone sign that one going, please.
Can I ask a question? Is the jetty on the west side, is that gonna be replaced at some
sorry.
point? You know how it's
Possibly.
like falling apart? I've heard grumblings of that.
In the capital plan for 2027 replacement, but we're kind of looking at and getting public input, engineering design input, because it is very porous. There's a lot of free communication in between the jetty wall, the harbor, and the sand behind it, as you've seen that erosion. But also reconstructing that can affect the public and private beaches around the area too. So it's a balance. So we're looking at it, but it was projected and, you know, in the approval process through the capital plan for 2027.
All right, so this is,
Thanks again for your time.
thank you.
Good.
Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to 69 Snowing Road, proposed dock replacement.
Evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Dan
Good evening.
Shermickley with Time Bond.
I'm sorry, who?
Dan Shermickley with Time Bond. I got a few copies of the NOI if you want to
Yeah.
cruise to Appendix B. You'll have a big plan to look at. Down that into the table. There's 8.5 by 11s of the plans there. The speaker. Everyone ready?
Getting there.
Getting there? I know, it's in there a good ways, about 2/3 of the way through probably.
Appendix B.
Yeah, Appendix B has the plans in there.
I did not send that part.
Thank
I
God.
sent the section 2 or the let me do.
Where the hell is B?
I did that online. Section 4. So alternative analysis. What is that sort of?
Oh, Appendix B, if you're looking for the drawings.
I've got one right here.
It's alright, yeah. You got the big boy right here. There you go. You found it down there. Alright. So here for 69 Snowin Road on Weechmere Harbor. More or less replacing an existing timber pier and float in kind. The existing pier out there extends about 85 feet past 85 feet past mean high water. In order to stick in the constraints of the bylaws, we actually pulled it in about 5 feet to get to that 80-foot mark that's required. 4 foot wide timber pier, timber piles. The piles are going to stick up a little bit higher than the old ones did, and we're actually raising the pier up a little bit higher because it goes underwater at least a couple times a year, it seems like these days. So raising the pier up, taller piles, adding a couple mooring piles out at the end, so that the vessel can be berthed out at the end there. New float. The float got slightly larger. It went from 10 by 15 to 16 by 11 foot 6. So slight increase in float area, still under the 200 square feet. I think it's a timber gangway out there now. It's going to be replaced with an aluminum gangway, same size. It's just at the end of its useful life. We also maintained the minimum clearance off the salt marsh, so we have that 1.5 to 1, so it's minimum 6 feet high off the salt marsh up to the deck. 3/4 inch deck spacing out there. We're maintaining the shorebird nesting platform that's out there. So hopefully some osprey or something will live there. Owner wanted to maintain that. And no dredging proposed on this one. We have good water depth out here. There's about 7 feet of water, mean low water out there at the end of the float. So yeah, I guess any questions or anything I can run you guys through?
We'll turn it over to John.
Yeah, thank you for that, and thanks for sending everything over. I know we've been talking to the office for
Sure.
a couple months.
Yep.
We did a drive-by yesterday as well with the full crew to kind of look at the existing dock, which definitely needs to replace it. No, I see there's a lot of construction going on the property in general.
Yes, yeah.
So again, I see that this is again an in-kind replacement, which is highly beneficial and noted when I was going through the packet. I kind of jumped in the back too, but focused on kind of section 4 and 3 and 4.
Yep.
So kind of those sections for everyone gets into somewhat of the typical NOIs where it goes over the proposed activities and also the alternatives, the different methodologies that could happen. And so I went through those and did a comparison of the replacing kind, no action alternative, and replacing kind with improvements and relocation. And I agreed too that the replacing kind with improvements with preferred alternative was favorable. The only questions I have are similar to the last presentation time of year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're literally in the back of the channel, but activity to travel there too would be very difficult, near impossible for any larger construction platforms or dredges, not dredges, but more barges, excuse me, with the mooring field that's right there. And one of the things that is favorable for this for me too is that any extension out further impedes into the swing radius of the moorings.
Yeah.
So I would definitely say that it's a hard stop where it is now, just because of the mooring fields right there and the vessels being that close. We were weaving in and out yesterday.
It's tight in
the
there,
27-foot boat. So
Yeah.
I mean, the 27 is tough to get through there. So
Sure.
restricting any more of the waterway or any more of the water usage in there is a big concern. But I didn't see that with this plan.
Good.
So.
Good. Yeah, it's coming in about 5 feet from the dock that's out there right now. So
Correct.
it buys you at least some real estate out there.
Yep, and I saw that as well. So
Yep.
Nothing else from me, Stephanie. Did you see anything from the waterways since you were out there with me, or from your wheelhouse?
Some weaving and bobbing. I think similar comments to last proposal. It's just it's nice when it's in kind. It's replacement. Our
Makes it
piles
easier.
are the same diameter.
Piles are the same diameter.
Okay.
I think we're adding, I believe, 2 piles at the end, mooring piles at the end, but they're in line
That's
with
such a small square footage.
Yeah,
So
very minimal.
same. No
Yep.
recommendation of mitigation for
Yeah.
shellfish seed, and we already actively seed
Mhm.
that area for municipal propagation for supplementing wild population. So you're actually already within a zone for that.
Okay, gotcha.
Which is nice in its own way.
Mhm.
No other comments?
Yeah, it is on an easement with the neighbor. We got a letter of permission from the neighbor. We included the copy of the easement in there as well, just so, it's got a little weird. It's like right on the border there and kind of angled out, so. Had to play a little neighbor politics to get it all squared away, but we got it done.
I have to say, I did like that you're keeping the Osprey platform too.
That was the owner specifically requested. I was like, they poop, right? But he wanted it. He likes the birds. Okay.
Okay.
So let's do keeping it.
Take some away from Saquatucket, maybe.
Yeah.
Anything from the committee? Any questions?
You said it, can you say it again, the size of the float, it's an increase?
It's a slight increase. The one out there's 15 by 10. The new one will be 11'6" by 16.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which way would the boats be berthed there? Would they be
broadside? Broadside to the mooring piles here at the end, and he has a small boat that he may keep on the inside of the slip there.
Okay.
It's really all the way back in the channel on the left. You can see the house under construction on the main road.
So where they had that old black sailboat years ago?
There was a giant sailboat there.
Yeah.
It was like a 70-foot sailboat there, yeah.
There's no water issues there then, right?
No,
it's about 7 feet at low water. So
we were right in it initially. It was deep.
Yep.
I'll make a motion.
Cool.
Any other?
Down, build it.
I like it. I like the enthusiasm.
All right, Rich.
I'll
Rich
make a
makes a motion
to
to accept.
the plans at 69 Snow Inn Road. I don't know if there's a number.
Yeah, C11,
C11.
C101.
C101, I'm sorry. C101.
Can I get a second?
Yes, I'll second.
Silent second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous, it carries.
Awesome.
Good job.
So now we gotta sign it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we,
Do you have a?
do you have two?
I got full size. That's just a section.
Oh.
Like a section doing details in there, but
Well, we have a couple.
Yank something out of here.
I'll say, and there's also 8.5 by 11s in there. I can pull them up if you
Yeah,
want.
if you could find.
Yeah, this one, Dan. You need two, right?
Yeah, we need two of them.
Duplicate that too.
Yeah. Wow, that was quick.
That was quite a package you put together.
You have a little
Thank you.
beacon on that.
There's a C101 there.
C101.
You're in South Harwich?
What's it?
I'm looking just at your letter and stuff, trying to figure
Oh
out
yes,
where you're
yep,
at.
yeah, South Harwich. Yep, yeah, we were out in Orleans and we just moved to South Harwich.
Oh, in the old back office
Is
building?
that the same copy?
The,
I just wanna make sure I got the right one.
The fancier office building down in, off of Route 28, right? You're right on 28?
Yep.
Yeah, you probably don't know what it is, the back office. That was what it was. Then it was the other software county, the Kennedy building.
Gotcha. Yeah, it is tight. Concrete block.
Yep.
There you go. Here's a full size copy. If you guys want to keep that. Or did you just? Did you
We're
just
just
sign
signing
the
it?
other
Oh,
one?
I'll take one of those.
Yeah,
copies, yeah.
you want to keep that?
We'll take.
Perfect. Awesome.
John saving
What's that?
boxes of these.
Oh, I bet you
All
do.
these, like, yeah. Would you mind if I kept one of those?
Oh no, I think this one's a full one. It's got all pages. Yeah.
I'll just, in case.
Yeah, that's you.
Perfect. Thank you all very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
That's for you. So,
Yeah. Is it? Oh, it's at the end of the table. I was gonna say.
Oh, I'm
Losing my
sorry.
mind.
I hit it on you.
It's all good.
Thank you.
everyone.
so old business, we just got the big three that we're gonna talk about, yeah?
Yeah. Are we good to go forward?
Yes.
Did everyone get a chance to read kind of the email? So, I think I was on day like 7 or 6 when I came here at my last meeting. And I had to go back and spend a little bit of time looking into the key permit requirements, understanding and respecting the tournament, its purpose, John's request, Ryan's request. I did kind of go through and kind of look at what the weight holds in the harbor management plan and what we have to abide by, prescribed by the select board and the regulations that hold within there, but what else we can do to help amend the request. So what I communicated, and as I went through the harbor management plan and saw that there are some pretty strict regulations on landings and T permits, and doing kind of a blanketed donation to complement that kind of is a violation against town policy and the harbor management plan. So what I propose to you all and propose to the tournament is that instead of requiring people to have T permits to go fish into the tournament, if they do have a fish that they catch during it, when they're coming into land, we'll actually meet them at the dock, sell them their T permit while they're landing it, because if they're going to be landing it, they're going to be going then and selling the fish most likely. And that would alleviate them having to come into the office, that would alleviate them having to buy the permit prior to the tournament, and it would be a case by case. And I think it complements what John was saying, being that we don't even know if anyone's going to land a fish. So, I think we're mitigating excessive costs, and we're mitigating any kind of unnecessary bending or other approvals that would have to go ahead, because to do what was asked before, we would actually have to go in front of the select board and do a revision to the harbor management plan for a special purpose for this tournament and make a new regulation just for this tournament. And hopefully you all saw those different sections I kind of pulled out here, the tuner's buyer permit and the landings. And any of these vessels, if they're in permitted Harwich AC or E offloading, they actually don't have to have a T permit.
How did we do this in the past? Is this new?
This is new, just
it's
because
new.
it lands right after it opens. So again,
I mean, the only thing I could see is that you might be opening yourself up to that. If I don't know who else could do tournaments out of Harwich, but going forward, if you do this, then next year you probably have to be available yet again. Which, if that's fine,
it's somewhat written into the harbor management plan too, that we'll bring on a seasonal person or an assistant harbor master for the day to be on that radio, ready to answer the call, like from a vessel saying, I'm coming in to offload, to run down, to sell the permit. I'm bending the rules just a little bit by saying, like, well, you don't have to have a permit when you arrive at the dock. Like, we'll run down there, we'll sell it to you, and then you can put it on to make it a little bit easier.
For the tournament.
For the tournament.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's a good offset,
Yeah. And we're still allowing them to land in Witchmere too.
Right.
So that's another bend.
So they don't have to go.
So they don't have to go to Saquatucket, or the Saquatucket people have to go to Witchmere.
Right.
If they want to land in Saquatucket, they can now as well. So 2 harbors opened, and we're going to be on call to deliver T permits to the vessel when they land at either harbor.
You're the harbor master. Huh?
I'm okay with it. I mean, I think it's convenience and it's good customer service for the town, and
it
makes the town look good.
Yeah, and it helps the tournament. It helps promote.
Right.
I mean,
I don't think you're really bending the rules a little bit. I think you're just helping out instead of them.
You're working with the rules.
Yeah.
Working with the rules, right? Yeah. Thanks, Roger. And I think if there isn't any fish caught, that's a cost saving to the tournament as well. So
I agree.
Ryan Hour, he's the director of the tournament, right? Isn't he one listed here? He's happy with it?
Ryan, so I
Maybe it's
contacted,
not Ryan, maybe he's not. I'm
it's
just-
John.
Okay, John.
And I hadn't talked to John, I had passed this to you after I
Right,
kind of went
right.
through. And we were waiting, and I was hoping John would come, but I can convey this back to him, and I'm sure he'll understand and then. And see
Well, I think we just need, for us ourselves, I think if we just wanna take a vote on it, just so the committee has an official vote on it, and just relay that back to John, and, but at least that way, there's no gray area.
Correct.
Maybe.
I'm just looking around.
I'll make a motion to accept or to make the offer to the Big Three fishing tournament for the Harbor Masters plan for the T permit for the fishing tournament.
To be available for the, yeah.
Yeah.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
That's all that was on the agenda.
That was it.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Like correspondence from, no. Yeah, make a motion to adjourn. Oh, geez, so hold on a second, let me get caught up.
I talked, yeah.
All right, hold on. Second? Motion to adjourn? Second? Anyone second? Anyone?
Second.
All in favor?
Somebody's asked.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen. I can't.